Part 2. The Imperial Edict and the Civil War Crown, 1859 to 1865. The Birth of Sovereignty, an October morning, 1859. The public declaration of Joshua Norton's new sovereignty in September 1859 was initially met with a mixture of confusion and amusement, but the reaction was not fleeting. San Francisco, a city populated largely by risk-takers, fortune-seekers, and rebels who had cut ties with Eastern tradition, was uniquely predisposed to embrace an outrageous act of self-invention. The gold rush hadn't just minted gold, it had minted new identities. Norton's was simply the grandest. The local newspapers, the Daily Evening Bulletin and the Daily Alta California, quickly realized that Norton was a journalistic gold mine. His pronouncements were instant circulation boosters, offering a welcome eccentric distraction from the increasingly dark national political drama surrounding slavery and secession. They didn't just report on him, they collaborated with him. They published his often bizarre, handwritten decrees verbatim, treating them with a gravity usually reserved for the President of the United States. This decision by the press was the crucible of his reign. By legitimizing his pronouncements through the medium of print, they effectively created a legal fiction that the city chose to uphold. When Norton issued his second imperial decree, just a month later, demanding that all people of property assemble to consider changes to the existing laws, the city's reaction set the pattern for the next 2 decades. It was ignored by officialdom, but it was read by everyone. The Emperor's Treasury and the Economy of Kindness. The immediate practical problem for the newly minted monarch was sustenance. A sovereign could hardly beg. Norton solved this problem with characteristic ingenuity and utter chutzpah, the issuance of imperial bonds. These were not jokes, though they possessed a high degree of absurdity. Norton would approach businessmen, particularly small shopkeepers and saloon owners, and present them with a printed or handwritten bond. The imperial government of Norton I promises to pay the holder the sum of 50 cents, or $1 or $5, on or before the year 1880, redeemable with interest. Why did these hard-nosed gold rush merchants accept the notes? 1. Marketing and novelty. Displaying a Norton I approved sign or simply accepting the emperor's script was excellent public relations. Tourists and locals alike flocked to establishments that participated in the great imperial game. A merchant who refused the emperor's notes was seen as a poor sport, perhaps even disloyal to San Francisco's unique spirit. 2. Tokens of appreciation. The actual value was negligible, but the cultural value was immense. The notes quickly became collectible souvenirs, often framed and placed behind the bar. 3. Civic subscription. Many merchants gave Norton small amounts of money or meals as a form of civic subscription. They were paying for the maintenance of a magnificent, living street performance that defined their city. It was the best entertainment dollar they ever spent. Norton rarely had more than a few dollars at a time, but he never starved and was never homeless. His daily rounds included stops at Martin and Horton's restaurant, the Union Hotel, and the Bank Exchange Saloon, where a designated seat and a warm meal, often a full turkey dinner, awaited him. This economy of goodwill proved far more stable than the rice market that had ruined him. Primary source insight. A contemporary account described Norton's dinner ritual. He would sit quietly, eat heartily, and upon finishing, he would sometimes issue a pronouncement to the waiters, who would receive it with a mixture of mock solemnity and genuine affection. He paid what he could, but his presence was always the superior currency. The Civil War, Abolition and Union. The true test of Norton's power and sanity came with the onset of the American Civil War in 1861. San Francisco was a city with divided loyalties, having a strong contingent of Southern sympathizers mixed with ardent abolitionists and Irish Unionists. Norton, despite his mental state, possessed a fierce and unwavering Unionist loyalty. His pronouncements during the war years were deeply serious and strikingly consistent with Abraham Lincoln's agenda. In 1860, he issued a mandate demanding that the United States military put down the brewing rebellion and arrest the secessionists, which included the governors of several southern states. In 1862, anticipating Lincoln, he issued his own decree freeing all enslaved people in the rebellious states. Powerful was his symbolic inspection. Norton would often visit the docks where Union ships were moored, conducting imperial inspections of the troops. The officers, understanding the importance of the ritual, would often permit him to walk the decks. This provided a bizarre, comforting symbol of unwavering sovereignty to the Union cause in a geographically isolated state. Norton's commitment to the Union earned him the respect of the local military establishment and cemented his image not just as an eccentric, but as a patriot. His absurdity became a shield against the existential dread of the national conflict. While the real government was tearing itself apart, the emperor offered a stable, unified, and, frankly, fun alternative: the Congressional coup and the Imperial Guard. In 1863, with the war raging, Norton took his boldest legislative action yet. He demanded a meeting with the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, to discuss the ongoing conflict. When Lincoln failed to respond, predictably, Norton responded with fury. He issued a decree dissolving the United States government entirely, stating that both the Union and the Confederacy were illegitimate and only his imperial authority could restore order. Edict of Disbandment, 1863. We do hereby decree that all persons assuming to be members of a legislative or judicial body are hereby commanded to retire. This is to prevent civil war until such time as the Imperial Congress or National Convention is called for the restoration of the Union. The local police, who by this time served as his de facto Imperial Guard, were instructed to arrest all members of the defunct Congress, a mission they politely ignored. The city laughed, not at him, but with him, acknowledging the absurd power vacuum Norton constantly highlighted. His true Imperial Guard was his loyal press. When the San Francisco Chronicle was founded in 1865, the editor, Charles DeYoung, made Norton's decrees a regular feature, ensuring that new generations of San Franciscans were initiated into the cult of the emperor. The press protected him, fed him, and immortalized him, a symbiotic relationship that has few parallels in history. Part 3. The Gilded Reign and the Civic Conscience, 1866 to 1879. The Visionary Emperor, Foresight and Infrastructure. The post-Civil War era, the Gilded Age, was characterized by industrialization, wealth accumulation, and massive infrastructure projects like the Transcontinental Railroad. Norton, ever the former merchant, turned his focus to urban planning, proving that beneath the eccentricities, a sharp mind for logistics still existed. His most famous and enduring decree was his repeated passionate demand for a bridge across the bay. Decree of 1869, the First Call. Norton issued the first of dozens of decrees demanding the construction of a suspension bridge connecting San Francisco to Oakland, stating it was essential for the city's commerce and defense. Decree of 1872, the Detailed Plan. He even provided engineering details, suggesting 3 specific piers and recommending that the bridge include a tunnel component to allow large ships to pass through. The proposals were dismissed as the ravings of a madman, yet decades later, when the Bay Bridge was finally built, its location and design echoed Norton's original detailed suggestions. He was a prophetic figure, his madness, perhaps, serving as a shield against the conventional thinking that prevented real progress. He saw the future because he wasn't constrained by the present. The Imperial Inspector and Urban Renewal. Norton's daily routine was structured around his imperial duties, which he took with solemn gravity. He was the city's unofficial quality control inspector. 1. Police and Public Works. He would inspect the state of the city's sidewalks and street lamps, often giving detailed, if useless, verbal reports to the Chief of Police, Patrick Crowley. He would also inspect the police force itself, and the officers, out of respect and policy, would dutifully stand at attention, often offering a quiet report on their shift. This active participation in city life was not passive tolerance, it was active incorporation. The city relied on the emperor to be present. His absence would have been a genuine civic crisis, signaling that the soul of San Francisco had soured. The imperial dogs, Bummer and Lazarus, the canine co-sovereigns. No discussion of Norton's reign is complete without his constant, celebrated companions. Bummer and Lazarus, these two scruffy, street-smart dogs, were more than pets. They were integral components of the imperial mythos. Bummer's story. Bummer, the elder, was a Newfoundland Mastiff cross. He was a master scavenger and a local legend for his ability to survive in the chaotic streets. Lazarus's resurrection. In 1863, Lazarus, a small black mongrel, was found severely injured, some say shot by a disgruntled citizen. Bummer reportedly guarded him fiercely, even fetching food for his injured friend. The two were nursed back to health by a local humane society and became a permanent, inseparable pair. Civic status. Bummer and Lazarus were granted special legal immunity by the city, exempting them from anti-stray laws. They were allowed to sleep in the plush carpets of banks and wander through the finest restaurants. They were the only animals to ever receive such an honor in 19th century San Francisco. When Lazarus died in 1863 after being run over by a fire engine, the Daily Alta California published a lengthy, sorrowful obituary treating the dog's death as a major civic loss. Bummer survived Lazarus for several years, becoming the emperor's sole companion, but never fully recovered from his loss. The emperor, the dogs, and the city formed a peculiar triad of sanity and madness. The dogs, in their loyalty and scruffiness, grounded the emperor in a genuine non-monetary reality. The Barbiere incident, recognition by force. As discussed, the most pivotal moment of Norton's life was his arrest in 1867. The young police officer, Armand Barbiere, was a new transplant from New York, completely uninitiated into San Francisco's complex civic contract with its emperor. He viewed Norton not as a symbol of local pride, but as a vagrant and a nuisance, perhaps even a potential danger. He arrested him on a warrant charging disturbing the peace and being a lunatic. The city's reaction was an unprecedented, spontaneous revolt of decency. The media thundered. They condemned Barbiere for his sacrilege and stupidity. The common theme was, "This man is not mad, he is an institution." Patrick Crowley, the chief of police, a seasoned San Franciscan, immediately recognized the gravity of the mistake. He personally went to the jail, ordered the emperor's immediate and unconditional release, and had Norton driven back to his usual dining establishment. Then Crowley issued the famous binding order. No police officer was ever to disturb the emperor. They were to treat him with respect and assist him in any necessity. This effectively granted Norton diplomatic immunity within the city limits. The incident was a victory for Norton's reign and a testament to the city's self-awareness. By attempting to impose cold legal reality on the situation, Officer Barbier forced the city to formally choose its fantasy, and San Francisco chose its emperor. Sociological analysis. The Barbier incident demonstrated that Norton was not just a tolerated eccentric, he was a critical cultural asset. The people of San Francisco used the emperor as a way to reject the cold, conventional formality of Eastern American culture. His reign was a daily performance of their own freedom and self-determination. He was their mascot of liberty from common sense. The anti-Chinese fury. The emperor stand for civil rights. The late 1870s saw a dangerous rise in anti-Chinese sentiment in San Francisco. Chinese immigrants were blamed for wage depression and economic hardship, leading to violent riots and political movements aimed at expulsion. Emperor Norton, always the unionist and the conscience of the city, responded with uncharacteristic fury. 1878 Decree Against Violence. Norton issued a powerful decree commanding the immediate cessation of all anti-Chinese violence and urging citizens to treat all immigrants with dignity. The Imperial Intervention. In one documented instance, Norton inserted himself physically between a mob of angry workers and a group of Chinese immigrants. He stood in the street, wearing his full regalia, reading his decree with a trembling, stern voice. The sight of their beloved, if mad, sovereign shaming them was enough to disperse the crowd. This action was a profound moment. While he could not legally stop the political movement, his moral authority, the authority derived from kindness and civic affection, was immense. He used the power of his absurdity to promote real-world decency, proving that his reign was not just entertainment, but a moral anchor for the turbulent city.